Hi, Andy Biggs here from Arizona's 5th Congressional District. I'm talking to you in this explainer video because with the recent events of my voting to vacate the chair, which was effectively removing the Speaker of the House, Mr. McCarthy, and creating a vacancy where another Republican could fill that seat, my office has received, as you might guess, many phone calls, and I'm appreciative of that. And so if you haven't been able to get through, I wanted you to be able to hear me answer and respond to the questions that we get most often. So the first question most often is, I'm going to read these questions and I'll answer them. Why does Congressman Biggs support, who does Congressman Biggs support as the next House Speaker? Well, I'm not going to name any names publicly. What I'm looking for is someone who will basically get back to the duty of the Speaker's role of actually making sure we get the most fundamental basic thing we're supposed to get done, which is the appropriations bills done on time, and get them out of here, start bending that trajectory back. Someone who also is conservative and is willing to fight that fight for conservative values. I can tell you, and you might guess this, that with some of the positions of my colleagues within the conference who were very upset with me and for the vote I took and the speech I made on the floor, which I would refer you to as well. But if I were to say that I support anybody publicly, I think that individual would be immediately disqualified by so many in our conference. So I'm keeping my thoughts on a name to myself so that whoever it is might be successful without having the baggage of Andy Biggs supporting it, if I can put it that way. The other thing I will tell you is before the end of the evening, so we took the vote, as you saw, late yesterday afternoon, and before the middle of the evening, into the evening last night, a number of people had already reached out indicating me that they were going to run or thinking seriously about running, which is what I predicted would happen. You'd have a number of very qualified conservatives. I want the person who's the most conservative, who can get 218 votes. That's who I want to be the next speaker. So that's hopefully that covers that question. The next question is, why does Congressman Biggs want to create chaos? Well, I would, we got a lot of that question. I would fundamentally disagree with that premise. We're not in chaos right now, so I'll explain why. Everything that happened exactly per the rules. It was unusual perhaps, but it was all by the rules. That was voted on and approved by Republicans unanimously last January. And so there was nothing that we did that created chaos. In fact, it was done by the book. It was orderly. If you want chaos, chaos is doing things like having a sit-in, as the Democrats did when they took over the House floor for several days in 2015 to prevent business from happening. Chaos would be when you pull a fire alarm to delay votes like a Democrat did just last Saturday. So what we did wasn't chaos. And why else is it not chaos? Because we have a Speaker pro tem by the rules who was listed by Speaker McCarthy as by the rules he's required to put people on a list that would succeed him if the chair was ever vacated. So it was anticipated. So now you have Patrick McHenry from North Carolina, who's the Speaker pro tem. In the meantime, every committee can continue on with its committee work. Every committee that's doing investigation work can continue with its investigation work. All of the transcribed interviews and depositions that were already on the books, they can continue as well. It is not chaos. It may be not pretty and it may seem conflictual, but there's a big difference between being chaotic and being conflictual but following the rules. And we followed the rules, and I don't view it as chaos myself. I think things are moving along, and quite frankly, I'll add one more point. If you want chaos, chaos is when the law from 1974, so for 50 years, the law has been to pass 12 spending bills by June 30th in the House of Representatives and transmit to the Senate. It hasn't been done for 25 years. And that type of chaos and failure to follow that rule has led to the massive national debt that we have today. I think that's more chaotic than anything that is happening right now. So that's my position on that. Why isn't Congressman Biggs focusing on appropriations? Well, I hope in the answers to the two previous questions you'll understand I am focused on the appropriations bills. I continue to work and try to get this body to do the appropriations bills. So the Speaker started talking last July about doing what's called a continuing resolution. That would mean that you don't do the appropriations bills, right? Because you're supposed to do those 12 bills that I was telling you about. That means you're doing the one big lump bill that continues on typically of the spending of in this instance of the Pelosi, Schumer, Biden regime with all the policies in place. And we said no. And then when we got back from an extraordinarily long recess in which we were told we would continue to work on the appropriations bills in the budget, where we didn't, the Speaker, then Speaker McCarthy came to us and said, okay, we're gonna have to do a continuing resolution with 2 weeks before the end of the fiscal year. And they were not going to bring any of the bills that had come out of Appropriations Committee. It was because a number of us only 4 of us, we forced them to bring those bills to the floor. So last week, in 72 hours, we brought 4 bills to the floor. We debated them night and day. We had a fairly open amendment process, which I haven't seen much of since I came here. I introduced more amendments, I believe, than anybody else in our conference on these bills. Why? Because I am engaged in the appropriations process. I introduced over 500 appropriations bills in February. Why? Because I care so much about it and I was pushing those. And so when we got an open amendment process that we finally forced, I brought a lot of those in amendment form. And we got a number of those amendments onto the bills through voice vote. So I am deeply involved with and concerned with the appropriations process and will continue to be. So I hope that clears up that misconception and misdirection and slander that people are putting against me as well. This one's important because I think a lot of people ask this question, and I don't know where it generates, but it's why do you Congressman Biggs hate Kevin McCarthy so much? I don't hate Kevin McCarthy. I've never, all of my interactions with him on a personal level have been affable and friendly. But being nice does not mean you're a good leader. And that's the difference here. I don't think he's a mean guy, but I don't think he's a great leader. And I think that his leadership has caused this country to actually have more problems under the Biden administration than taking on the administration and using the leverage points that we have. And there are very few when in split government, but you do have the strongest one, which is the budget. And that's what the founders gave to us as one of our major checks against the runaway executive branch, and that was controlling your budget. That's why doing the budget and appropriation bills in an appropriate fashion is so important. That's why going over and coming to negotiate a debt ceiling with the Senate and coming back with an unlimited, you took the cap off our national debt growth, and you did it and you kicked it out so we won't even consider it again until January of 2025. That's the type of thing that it doesn't matter whether you're nice or not, which Mr. McCarthy is. It matters whether you're a good leader. And I don't think he was, and that was part of the problem. And that's why that question is, I don't have anything against Mr. McCarthy personally. Why did Congressman Biggs side with the Democrats and not his own party? I didn't side with the Democrats. What I did is I sided with my constituents and the American people who've been asking me for months to make a change. Why have they asked that? Because of all the things I've said in my answers to the previous questions. And so I didn't side with the Democrats. I sided with the American people. That's my perception of things. I sided with my constituents, and I would fight for my constituents every time. And I didn't come here, by the way. I didn't come here to be part of some team that is going to continue to perpetuate out of control spending and is going to not fight for the American people. I came to fight for the American people. I came to fight for my constituents. I'll always do that. I will never stop fighting. And with that, I hope I answered that question. So we've got a lot of folks that are asking these questions. I am glad people are calling in. It means people are paying attention. I hope they do pay attention, and I hope they watch what happens here. You know, when you have, I was asked, and I was stopped yesterday by a press person from the UK, and they were asking along the same vein of these questions. But I would say that things sometimes look messy in a representational constitutional republic, but that's what we have. And those of us who are trying to represent our constituents are going to get out there, and we're going to, sometimes it'll look messy, but we have to keep fighting for the American people. This is a great country. It's worth fighting for. Our freedoms are worth fighting for, and I will never stop fighting. And I welcome your continued questions, and if other questions come in and we're not addressing those questions, we'll make another explainer video. It's my honor to represent the 5th Congressional District of Arizona. It's the best district in the country. I tell my colleagues that all the time, and I'm going to keep representing you to the best of my ability. Thank you, and God bless you.